Yeah, I need the light on, please. Thank you. That's better. All right, folks. Welcome to the week 7 collaborate session. All right. So we're going to go ahead and the agenda here is we're going to go through the slides for this week and a brief overview of the exercise from the video lecture. I will say that I have only seen one response thus far to the video lecture exercise from this section. So we're going to go through it, and if anybody wants to do their opinions here, then I'll be okay with that, especially because I'll probably be the bulk of the conference session because this is kind of an exceedingly short slideshow. So first things first, I do want to make sure everybody is currently working on the evaluation essays. So by this point, you should have at least found a topic and found something to write about and started composing your criteria for that topic. Okay? Let's take a look at the slides here. So first off, what makes a good evaluation? Some elements that will make or break your evaluation essays. These include things like strong criteria. Is it clear to the reader why your criteria is important in determining your subject's quality? Are your criteria able to be met by your or any subject? You need to have acknowledgement of biases. Are you willing to accept that some things you judge as quality are based on your own personal biases? Can you move past those biases and create a fair evaluation? Also, you need knowledge of the subject. Do you have enough information to make a measured evaluation of your subject? Have you done enough with the subject, watched, read, experienced it in a great enough quantity that you can anticipate all of the elements that would contribute to an evaluation of it? Okay? So, the base idea here is you need to have some familiarity with your subject. You need to be willing to create criteria that you can judge the subject by. And you have to be willing to acknowledge that there are going to be certain attitudes you have that are ingrained and may color your criteria for quality. Okay? So we have a journal exercise that is part of this video lecture. Okay? In the journal, you're to write about 3 or 4 potential subjects for your evaluation. These can be anything ranging from films, television shows, to books or experiential subjects like hotels or parks. Now, I will say that I've had some people asking me about if certain topics were okay for writing an evaluation. I will say one of the topics that was presented to me was a topic that was more of an argument topic and an evaluation topic. It was basically an overview of what happens to your body when you smoke and drink. Okay, and honestly, that's actually more along the lines of a research paper than it is a evaluation. Okay, so it's probably going to be good to avoid a topic like that. You want to have something that you can evaluate and give some kind of grading to. Okay. So think about and write about the following for each chosen potential subject. First off, how often have you experienced that subject? Second, how much do you know about it outside of your own experience? Third, what are some memorable things about your potential subject? Certain elements that are going to stand out to an audience. Okay, like for instance, the example I had was the Pop Century Resort of Walt Disney World having the giant statues. Okay, that's something that if I were evaluating that hotel, I would probably want to mention. Into what category would you place your potential subject, ties into creating criteria? Okay. What type of thing is it? What kind of category can you define it as? Okay. Then read over your responses to the questions and all right. It disconnected. What I'm trying to get at here is you were trying to find a category that potential subject fits into, and then you're going to be creating the criteria based on that category. What makes something in that category good? What elements are you looking for items in that category? Okay. Right, so evaluating subjects. So from this journal writing, you should be able to choose a good subject for your evaluation. So what you're going to do with what you wrote in the journals is look at the experience you've had with each subject. The more experience you have, the more prepared you are to evaluate it. Okay. So look carefully at what you've written and try to judge if your experience is good enough that you can make a fair assessment. Then look at a list of criteria for each subject. A more detailed, more in-depth list of criteria will make it for a better evaluation, but not criteria so impossible that nothing could ever meet them. Okay. Remember, we're looking for good. We're not looking for perfect. Okay. If you're setting up criteria to look for the perfect element in that particular category, there's bound to be some disappointment. Okay. Read over the experiences you've had with each subject. In your judgment, would they be interesting to an audience, and who would your audience be? Okay. So think over who you're going to be writing to, what type of thing they're expecting, what are they looking for in an evaluation of that type. Okay. And next. The rest of the lecture was looking at evaluation examples, so you can pick up on any elements that might be useful for your own. Okay. These are samples that came from regular people, and they also came from prominent writers. I'm going to go through the list here. I'm not going to read them because I actually read them in the lecture. So if you want to have somebody read these evaluations to you, you're going to have to play the lecture. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to have to visit the links yourself in the slideshow. Okay. After each evaluation, you're going to post your reaction and elements you felt were good or bad about each evaluation to the new thread on questions to the professor, which is up. And as I mentioned, I've only had one response to it thus far. Okay. But here is the evaluations. First one was an evaluation of Six Flags Great Adventure, done by a reviewer named Joel for the site Coaster Critic. It's a blog posting where Joel gives numerical scores to the overall atmosphere, the individual rides and attractions, and a rating called the Get Over Here Index. Okay, basically the overall evaluation of the park. All right, next is a review of the Contradictions by Sophie Yanow. This was from NPR. This review was written by Atelka Lahochi. It's a standard book review. So what she's doing is reviewing a graphic novel. I did misspeak here and say that she did not really use conventional graphic novel judging techniques, but she actually does compare it to other similar graphic novels. Now, she's not comparing against like superhero comics or anything like that, but she's comparing against a similar style of graphic novel that's become popular in recent years. Okay. The next one is the two episodes of Steven Universe from the AV Club. The evaluator's name is Eric Thurm. This is a web television review. Thurman reviews 2 pivotal episodes of the show by recapping the events that occur in the episodes and analyzing the quality of the shows against other episodes and similar programming. Each episode gets a letter grade. Now, I will say, some people were kind of misinterpreting his review in terms of his experience with the show. I've had a couple of responses in the other section that said that he was reviewing it after seeing the show for the first time. The thing is with AV Club's TV Club section is the reviewers are assigned a series and they review entire seasons of that series as it airs. Okay, so he's already reviewed most of the previous episodes of these 2 episodes. Okay. All right. So next here is the 2 on white. Okay. These are from National Review. Armand Waite is the contrarian film critic who goes against everybody else at Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. So I gave you 2 of his reviews. One was for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which he gave a bad grade, even though Rotten Tomatoes scores it at 97%. And then a dual review of the films Assassin's Creed and Silence. Assassin's Creed at Rotten Tomatoes is 18%. He gives it a good review. Silence at Rotten Tomatoes is 83%. He gives it a bad review. Okay? So let me open this up to questions real quick. And anybody who has any questions on the exercises or on writing the evaluation, preparing the evaluation, doing a idea generation, now it's time to ask those questions. Once we, after everybody's settled here, then we're going to take a step briefly backward. And we're going to take a look at the EMP article, the EMP article I posted last week. So if you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hands. I will recognize you, and we will let you ask. Okay, Rena, I see your hand there. What's your question?
Yeah, so for the evaluation, it could just be like any movie or book or anything we want to evaluate, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. If there's any more questions about the lecture or anything, now it's time to do it. We have about 2 minutes here. We're going to actually go through the EMP essay together. So you guys have an idea of what to be looking for evaluations. All right, folks. So let's go ahead and take another look at the EMP essay by Jackie Wingard. So I brought it up here on my screen. You guys take a look at what I've got here. I'm going to try to increase the size of it a little bit so it's a little bit clearer. Let's see. There we go. So this should probably show up a little better on the collaborate screen. All right, so there is the EMP itself. And let's go ahead and take a look at the evaluation essay. Okay, so it's EMP, music history or music trivia. Along with other college students new to Seattle, I wanted to see what cultural opportunities the area offers. I especially wanted to see billionaire Paul Allen's controversial Experience Music Project, known as EMP, a huge, bizarre, shiny, multicolored structure that is supposed to resemble a smashed guitar. Brochures say that EMP celebrates the creativity of American popular music. It has prompted heated discussion among architects, Seattle residents, museum goers, and music lovers who have questioned its commercialism and the real value of its exhibits. My sister recommended this museum to me because she knows I am a big music lover and a rock and roll fan. Also, as an active choir member since the 6th grade, I have always been intrigued by the history of music. I went to EMP expecting to learn more about music history from exhibits that showed a range of popular music styles, that traced historical connections and influences, and that enjoyably conveyed information. However, as a museum of rock history, EMP is a disappointing failure. EMP to its styles of it fails this task because it isolates musicians and styles without explaining historical progressions or cultural influences. For instance, the museum doesn't show how Elvis Presley's musical style was influenced by his predecessors like Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters. It doesn't show how early folk and blues influenced Bob Dylan's music. It doesn't show how early jazz paved the way for rock and roll. How are these isolated and separate EMP exhibits connected? How did rock and roll progress from the 50s, let's go to the hop beats, to the laid-back guitar riffs of the 60s and 70s? Rock of the 80s and 90s. How did these styles lead to rap? The exhibits show the existence of these different styles, but they don't help viewers understand the historical developments or historical context. While it's interesting to see a peace patch once owned by Janis Joplin, this exhibit does not explain either the social and political events of the time or Joplin's political views. Another fault of EMP is that it omits many influential groups of musicians, particularly women. For example, there is no display about the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, or the Doors. The exhibits also exclude many major female artists who made substantial contributions to popular music. I found nothing about Joan Baez, Ella Fitzgerald, Aretha Franklin, Carly Simon, or Joni Mitchell. I was also surprised that there were few women mentioned in the Northwest Passage exhibit. Weren't more women involved in the Seattle music scene? As a woman interested in music, I felt left out by EMP's overall neglect of women musicians. Perhaps most frustrating about EMP is the way exhibits are explained through the awkward, difficult-to-use handheld computer called the Museum Exhibit Guide, or MEG. The explanations are hard to access and then disappoint their content. I wanted to hear a landmark song that an artist wrote or an interesting analysis of the artist's musical style. Instead, I listened to how Elvis made the leather jacket famous or other random trivia. The MEG also offers too many choices for each exhibit, like a web page with a dozen links. But after all the time and effort, you learn nothing that increases your understanding or stimulates your thinking about music history. The MEGs themselves are very heavy, clunky, and inconvenient. If you don't point this gadget exactly at the activator, nothing happens. It took me a good 10 minutes to figure out how to get the device to play information for me, and many of my classmates had to keep going back to the booth to get new batteries or other repairs. The museum would be much more effective if visitors had the option of just reading about the displays from plaques on the wall. I know that many people will disagree with my assessment of EMP. They'll point to the fun of the interactive exhibits and the interesting collection of album covers, crushed velvet costumes, concert clips, famous guitars, and old jukeboxes. But a good museum has to be more than a display of artifacts and an array of hands-on activities. Pretending you're a rock star by performing on stage with instruments doesn't tell you how a certain style of music came about. Displaying trivial information about Elvis's leather jacket or Janis Joplin's feather boa doesn't help you appreciate the importance of their music. Devoting half an exhibit to punk rock without any analysis of that style doesn't teach you anything. In short, the museum displays frivolous trivia tidbits without educational substance. Music lovers hoping for an educational experience about the rock and roll era of music history will be disappointed by EMP. And this is without the additional insult of having to shell out $19.95 to get in the door. Speaking for serious music lovers and students of music history, I have to say that EMP is a failure. All right. All right, so that is the review of the EMP. All right, so a few things I wanted to point out here. In that very first paragraph, Wingard actually puts forth her criteria. In the second to last sentence here. I went to EMP expecting to learn more about music history from exhibits that showed a range of popular music styles, that traced historical connections and influences, and that enjoyably conveyed useful information. Those are her three criteria right there. The exhibits have to show a range of popular music styles, they have to trace historical connections and influences, and they have to enjoyably convey useful information. Okay, according to Jackie Wingard, EMP does not do that. By the way, if you were wondering about Paul Allen, if you're not familiar with Paul Allen, and might be the reason why they use so much technology at this place, Paul Allen is one of the co-founders of Microsoft. He was one of the co-founders along with Bill Gates. All right, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and go to the evaluations that were in this week's lecture. Let me share with you the one post I've gotten about that. Okay. This is currently publicly available at the discussion forum. So it's not like I'm giving you anything private here. Okay. So this is the student thoughts on on some of these evaluations. The student did not do the AV Club evaluation. All right. So the Six Flags evaluation. Oh, wait 1 second here. Let me get this its own window. I'm just going to share with you the discussion window so that you can see what it is I'm talking about. Okay. So let's see. Patient screen. There it is. All right, here we go. All right, so for the Six Flags evaluation fairly thorough in reference to the rides. He seemed to acknowledge the pitfalls of the theme park while giving accolades to the best performing rides. His criteria seemed to center around the quality and functionality of the rides. I liked how he would reference a similar ride if the one that park was not available at that time. This gave the reader at least something to go off of rather than be left with negative thoughts about the ride and its service. Okay. The review of the contradictions. The reviewer evaluated the book on the primary criteria that the book is engaging to the reader. He seemed to hone in on how, although the writer didn't have suspense or a lot of drama, they were still able to convey entertaining and relatable story. And then the third one is the movie reviews. Into the Spider-Verse, the reviewer has a lot of emotion behind his words. It makes it hard to think that he can give an unbiased review. Okay. So this person actually pointed out that part of Armand White's problem is that he puts too much of his own biases into his reviews, which is kind of, as I mentioned in the lecture, it's kind of weird because he does movie reviews for the National Review, which is a conservative news and opinion magazine. And the ultimate question is, why would a magazine like that need a movie reviewer? Okay, but they picked this guy. Okay. Uh, so as I the evaluations in the lecture, I'm not going to reread them now. If you want to read them on your own, the links are in the slideshow for week 7. Download them and click the links yourself. Go to these reviews. So while I've got you guys here, why don't we go ahead and let you guys chime in on what you thought of these evaluations, how you felt about them, what you thought they did right, what you thought they might have done wrong, anything like that. Anybody wants to raise a hand and just pipe up with what they want to say, you're more than welcome. All right, nobody has anything to say about the evaluations here. We'll just go ahead and open up to general questions here for another, let's go 7 minutes or so, and then we'll go ahead and you guys loose. So if anybody has any other questions they need addressed about the evaluations, go ahead, raise your hand. I'll answer them best I can.
I do have one question, Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
About the MindTap, about our MindTap grading. How crucial is that to our overall grade for the
Let me bring up
course?
syllabus real quick because it's going to be counted as an overall grade in terms of
Yes, sir.
your full grade. I'm going to see how much of a percentage that is.
Okay,
For the
I've been doing them. I just wasn't 100% sure. And then for
yeah.
our next argument, when is that going to be due? I haven't looked thoroughly through it. I was just wanting a reference for it.
Okay. Well. Okay. First off, MindTap is worth 15% of your grade. Okay, of
Okay,
your
thank you,
overall
sir.
grade for the semester. Okay. The evaluation argument, it's going to be coming up due in 2 weeks. Next week is the revision workshop on that. And then the following week is going to be the proofreading and editing workshop. And the end of that week, the link will open up for you to turn it in.
All
Uh,
right. Are you going to be giving out announcements for these workshops? I guess you did that for the last one. I was just
uh,
curious right now if you are.
the announcements are pretty much in the lectures. Okay. I will tell you which
Okay.
in the lecture. I'll tell you which workshop is going on. In fact, I was just looking at the slides for next week's lecture, and it's explicitly will tell you that I'm going to tell you in the lecture and in those slides that this week is the revision workshop. Okay.
Awesome. All right.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Martinez.
yeah, no problem. Uh, just one other thing I want you guys to know we're actually going to be piggybacking a couple of assignments together here because the week that we do the proofreading and editing workshop on the evaluation essay is also going to be the week that we have your team start working on the next project, which is the anti-bibliography. Okay, so just so that you're aware, we're gonna basically merge from one right into the next. Okay. So it's really important that you guys make sure that your teams are communicating because anti-bibliography is a team project. All right, folks. So that'll. If there's no other questions, I'll do it for this session. Oh, okay. Uh, we'll do another one of these sessions next Wednesday or next Thursday, same time. Keep an eye out for the new lecture on Monday. And continue working on figuring out your topics and get some writing done on these evaluations, because next week will be the first workshop week. It's going to be the revision workshop. So make sure you guys have some kind of draft to share with your teams. That being said, go ahead and let you guys go, and we will see you guys next week.